Commander James Harrison stood at the observation deck of the International Space Station, his heart pounding as the sleek alien vessel approached. After 20 years of space service, he thought he'd seen everything. He was wrong. The ship's iridescent hull shimmed against the backdrop of Earth, its organic curves unlike anything human engineering had achieved. As the docking procedure began, Harrison straightened his uniform and touched the communication device in his ear, confirming the feed to mission control was clear. "Vessel secured," announced Dr. Thomas Reed, the station's chief engineer. "Airlock pressurizing." Harrison nodded, his military training keeping his excitement in check. This wasn't just first contact. This was humanity's first diplomatic meeting with the Celestials, a species that had revealed themselves to Earth just 3 months ago. The airlock cycled, and Harrison held his breath. The inner door opened, revealing a tall, elegant figure. Ambassador Nix moved with impossible grace despite the zero gravity, her silvery skin catching the station's lights. Her large, violet eyes fixed on Harrison immediately. "Commander Harrison," she said, her universal translator converting her melodic language to perfect English. "I come seeking Earth's help." Harrison gestured toward the conference room. "Welcome aboard, Ambassador. We're honored to—" "There isn't time for pleasantries," Nix interrupted, her voice trembling slightly. "I must speak with your leaders immediately. My life depends on it." The urgency in her voice made Harrison's tactical training kick in. He quickly led her to the secure communication chamber, where a direct link to the United Earth Council awaited. As the screens flickered to life, showing the faces of humanity's leaders, Nix's composure cracked. "My species forms biological bonds," she explained, her hands clasped tightly. "Without these bonds, we die. I am unbonded and my time is running out. Our scientists have discovered that humans are compatible." She turned to Harrison, her violet eyes intense. "I need one of your people to bond with me, or I will die within 30 Earth days." The chamber erupted in shocked murmurs. Harrison maintained his professional demeanor, but his mind raced. This wasn't just a diplomatic crisis. It was a potential turning point in human history. "Ambassador," Harrison said carefully, "are you suggesting marriage?" "Your concept of marriage is similar," Nix replied. "But this is deeper, a biological imperative, a sharing of life force." She straightened, her dignity evident despite her desperate situation. "I am not asking this lightly. My death would trigger a diplomatic crisis. I am the only celestial qualified to serve as ambassador to Earth. Without me, our people's growing alliance would collapse." The council members exchanged worried glances. Harrison understood their concern. This was unprecedented, a situation no diplomatic protocol could have prepared them for. "How exactly does this bond work?" Harrison asked, trying to keep the discussion focused on facts rather than fears. Nix's expression softened slightly. "It creates a connection between life energies, shared emotions, enhanced empathy, a deep understanding. It's not mind reading, but something more fundamental. Our scientists believe humans possess a compatible energy signature, though it's never been attempted between our species." Harrison processed this information, aware that every word was being recorded and would be analyzed by experts worldwide. "And the risks?" "Unknown," Nix admitted. "But my death is certain without it. I chose to come to your station specifically, Commander Harrison, because your species has shown remarkable adaptability. Where others see impossibility, humans see opportunity." The gravity of the situation settled over the chamber. This wasn't just about saving one life. It was about the future of human-celestial relations. The wrong decision could affect humanity's place in the galactic community forever. "We need time to discuss this," one of the council members said. "The implications—" "I understand," Nix interrupted gently. "But please remember, every moment of delay brings me closer to death, and with my death may die the best chance our peoples have for a peaceful future." Harrison watched as the council members began their heated discussion. He studied Nix's face, seeing past her diplomatic poise to the genuine fear beneath. In all his years of service, he'd never faced a situation like this, where the right answer was so unclear, yet the stakes were so devastatingly high. The future of two civilizations now balanced on a decision that would have to be made, not in weeks or months, but days. And as Harrison looked from the arguing council members to Nix's hopeful yet desperate expression, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was exactly the kind of moment that would define humanity's readiness for the galactic stage. The days following Nix's revelation transformed the International Space Station into the center of a diplomatic storm. Commander Harrison found himself caught between Earth's cautious political machine and the increasingly visible effects of Nix's condition. Her silvery skin had begun to lose its luster, and dark circles appeared beneath her violet eyes. Dr. Reed worked tirelessly in the station's lab, analyzing the data provided by celestial scientists. Harrison stood behind him, watching streams of incomprehensible data scroll across multiple screens. "It's fascinating," Reed muttered, pushing his glasses up his nose. "Their biology operates on principles we barely understand. It's like they've evolved to form quantum entanglements at a cellular level." "In English, Doctor," Harrison prompted, though his attention was drawn to Nix, who sat in the observation module, her gaze fixed on the Earth below. "They don't just bond emotionally, they literally share life force. Without it, their cellular structure begins to break down." Reed turned to face Harrison. "It's like a plant without sunlight but exponentially faster." Harrison's jaw tightened. "And you're certain humans are compatible?" "The celestial data suggests so. Our neural patterns match theirs in key areas. But," Reed hesitated, "the effects on the human partner are unknown. This would be more than marriage, more than any human relationship. It would be a fundamental biological merger." The commander walked to the observation module, his footsteps echoing in the station's metallic corridors. Nix didn't turn as he approached, but he saw her reflection smile slightly in the reinforced glass. "Your world is beautiful," she said softly. "So full of life, of possibility. We Celestials evolved in a harsher environment. Perhaps that's why we developed the need for bonds to share strength to survive." Harrison sat beside her. "Tell me more about your people." Nix's violet eyes met his. "We were once like you, independent, self-sufficient, but our sun began to die millennia ago. Our ancestors had to adapt or perish. They developed the ability to share life force, to support each other through the darkness. When we finally reached the stars, we discovered that this adaptation had become integral to our species." "And now you're dying because of it," Harrison said, not unkindly. "Ironic, isn't it? The very thing that saved us now threatens me." She turned to face him fully. "Your council fears this bond would give us power over humans. They're wrong. It would give us understanding, connection, something both our species desperately need." A light flashed on Harrison's communicator, another council session. He stood, but Nix caught his arm. Her touch was cooler than a human's, but not unpleasant. "They want to wait to study, to debate," she said. "But Commander, look at me, really look." Harrison did. The deterioration was obvious now. Her movements were stiffer, her breathing slightly labored. She was dying before his eyes. "I've reviewed your species' history," she continued. "Humans don't advance through careful deliberation alone. You leap, you take chances, you dare to do what others call impossible. That's why we chose Earth for first contact. That's why I came here." The council session was about to begin, but Harrison remained standing there, struck by the weight of the moment. In the station's artificial light, with Earth spinning silently below them, he saw not just an alien diplomat, but a bridge between two civilizations, a bridge that was crumbling. "Commander," Dr. Reed's voice came through the intercom. "The council is waiting." Harrison helped Nix to her feet, noting how she leaned on him slightly. Together, they walked to the communication chamber, where the faces of Earth's leaders appeared on the screens. The debate that followed was heated but familiar. The same concerns, the same fears, the same political dance. But something had changed in Harrison. As he listened to the arguments, he watched Nix's reflection in the darkened screen. She stood with dignity despite her weakness, a symbol of everything humanity had dreamed of: contact, communication, connection with something greater than themselves. The council members spoke of risks, of unknowns, of potential threats. But Harrison remembered Nix's words about human nature. about leaping, about daring, about doing the impossible. And he realized that sometimes the greatest risk was not taking one at all. As the session drew to a close with still no decision made, Harrison cleared his throat. All eyes turned to him, human and celestial alike. "I volunteer," he said simply. The chamber fell silent. Nix's violet eyes widened, a mix of hope and concern crossing her features. The council members burst into shocked exclamations, but Harrison stood firm. "I've served Earth for 20 years," he continued. "I've dedicated my life to exploring space, to pushing boundaries. If we're going to join the galactic community, someone has to take the first real step. Let it be me." The implications of his offer hung in the air like a tangible thing. In that moment, on a station suspended between Earth and stars, humanity faced a choice between caution and courage, between fear and hope. And one man had just volunteered to be the bridge. The medical bay of the International Space Station had never been this crowded. Dr. Reed hunched over his instruments while a holographic projection of the celestial medical team flickered in the corner. Commander Harrison lay on the examination table, electrodes dotting his chest and temples, while Nix sat nearby, her deterioration now impossible to ignore. "Your vital signs are stable," Reed announced, studying the readings. "But these energy patterns," he gestured to a swirling display of colors and light, "they're unlike anything we've seen in human biology." The lead celestial doctor, a tall figure named Varix, spoke through the hologram. "Those patterns are crucial. They represent your capacity for bonding. In our species, they flow naturally, but in humans—" He paused, searching for words. "Think of it like learning to use a muscle you never knew you had." Harrison sat up, removing some of the electrodes. "We're running out of time for tests. Look at her." He nodded toward Nix, whose silvery skin had taken on a concerning grayish tinge. "Commander," Reed protested, "we still don't understand the full implications. The bond could fundamentally alter your brain chemistry, your cellular structure, maybe even your DNA. Or it could open doors we never imagined possible," Harrison countered. He stood, walking over to Nix. "How do we begin?" The celestial doctors exchanged glances through the hologram. Varix stepped forward. "The process is intimate, not physically but energetically. Your minds, your very life forces will reach for each other. But you must be certain, Commander, once begun there is no turning back." Harrison looked at Earth through the medical bay's window, thinking of everything and everyone he was putting at risk. But when he turned back to Nix, saw the trust and hope in her violet eyes, his resolve strengthened. "I'm certain." The next hours were a blur of preparation. The station's lights were dimmed to match the soft bioluminescence of celestial healing chambers. Harrison and Nix sat facing each other, their hands barely touching, while both human and alien medical teams monitored every fluctuation in their vital signs. "Remember," Varix instructed, "don't force it. Let the connection build naturally. Your energy fields will recognize each other." Harrison closed his eyes, trying to focus on this unknown sense the Celestials spoke of. At first, there was nothing, just the familiar sounds of the station, the steady beep of medical equipment, his own heartbeat. Then he felt it, a whisper of something foreign yet familiar, like a song heard in a dream. Nix's presence, her essence, brushed against his consciousness. It wasn't mind reading or telepathy, it was deeper, more fundamental. He felt her fear, her hope, her gratitude, not as separate emotions, but as part of a vast tapestry of being. The monitors began beeping faster. "Energy synchronization beginning," Reed announced, his voice tense with excitement and concern. "Their patterns are aligning." Harrison barely heard him. The connection was growing stronger, more insistent. He felt as if he was standing on the edge of an enormous precipice, knowing he had to jump but unable to see the bottom. Nix's consciousness reached for his, offering support, offering trust. He leaped. The world exploded into sensation. Colors he had never seen, feelings he had no words for, understanding that transcended language, they all crashed over him like a tidal wave. He was himself, but he was also more. He could feel Nix's life force intertwining with his own, strengthening both of them. "Remarkable," Varix breathed. The bond is forming faster than any we've recorded. Through the chaos of new sensations, Harrison felt something stabilizing. The overwhelming flood of awareness settled into a steady stream, like finding solid ground after being tossed by waves. He opened his eyes. Nyx was glowing. Not just her natural bioluminescence, but a deep, vital light that seemed to pulse in time with their now synchronized heartbeats. Her skin had regained its silvery sheen, her eyes bright with health and wonder. "It worked," Reed whispered, staring at his readings in disbelief. "Their cellular structures are harmonizing. The deterioration in Ambassador Nyx's system is revering." Harrison reached out, touching Nyx's cheek. The simple contact sent ripples of shared sensation through their newly formed bond. "Are you all right?" "Yes," she smiled, and he felt her joy as his own. "More than all right. You've saved my life, Commander, and perhaps much more than that." She was right. As the medical teams buzzed around them, taking readings and making excited observations, Harrison realized this was more than a diplomatic solution or a medical breakthrough. Through this bond, he could truly understand what it meant to be celestial, just as Nyx could now understand what it meant to be human. They had become living proof that their species could not just coexist, but connect on the deepest possible level. As he sat there, adjusting to the strange new awareness that hummed through his being, Harrison knew that the universe had just become a much larger, much more wonderful place than anyone had imagined. 2 weeks after the bonding, the International Space Station buzzed with unprecedented activity. Scientists from Earth crowded the laboratories, while celestial observers arrived in elegant ships that made the human vessels look primitive by comparison. At the center of it all, Commander Harrison and Ambassador Nyx navigated their new reality. Harrison stood at his familiar spot on the observation deck, but everything felt different now. Through the bond, he sensed Nyx's approach before she entered the room. Her presence in his mind had become a comfortable constant, like a warm current running alongside his own thoughts. "The Council is impressed with our progress," Nyx said, joining him at the window. "Your adaptation to the bond exceeds all expectations." Harrison smiled, feeling her pride and affection ripple through their connection. "They're still worried, though, about what this means for the future." Images flashed between them through the bond, memories of the past 2 weeks. The initial disorientation as they learned to navigate their shared awareness. The discovery that they could sense each other's physical condition, emotions, even catch glimpses of memories. Most surprisingly, they found that Harrison had gained access to some celestial abilities. His cellular structure had partially adapted, giving him enhanced healing and a faint bioluminescence under stress. "Dr. Reed wants to run more tests," Harrison said, though Nyx already knew this through their connection. "He thinks understanding how I've changed might help us prepare others for similar bonds." "Others?" Nyx turned to him, her violet eyes searching his face. "You believe more humans will volunteer?" "I know they will." Harrison gestured to Earth below. "Look at what we've achieved in just 2 weeks. The medical breakthroughs alone are staggering. Reed's team has already identified ways to apply celestial healing techniques to human physiology." Through their bond, he felt Nyx's mixture of hope and concern. "But not all changes are physical," she reminded him. "The emotional connection, the sharing of consciousness, many humans might find this too intimate, too alien." Harrison acknowledged her point with a nod. The bond had changed him in ways he was still discovering. He could sense the vast network of similar connections among the celestial visitors, understanding now why they considered bonding so fundamental to their existence. It was like being part of a living constellation, each point of light connected to others in an intricate dance of shared energy. A commotion from the main laboratory interrupted their reflection. Dr. Reed burst into the observation deck, his face flushed with excitement. "Commander, Ambassador, you need to see this." He held up a tablet displaying complex biological readings. "We've identified the key factors that made your bonding successful. With this data, we could potentially prepare other humans for similar connections, maybe even develop ways to facilitate human-celestial communication on a broader scale." Harrison felt Nyx's surge of excitement match his own. Through their bond, they shared a moment of perfect understanding. This was just the beginning. There's more, Reed continued, scrolling through his data. The changes in the commander's biology suggest humans have always had this potential for connection. It's like the bond awakened dormant capabilities in our own DNA. The implications are enormous, Nick said, her voice carrying the weight of diplomatic responsibility. This could revolutionize relations between our peoples. Harrison moved to the communication console, knowing what needed to be done. We should address both our species together, show them what's possible. The next hour was a flurry of preparation. As Harrison and Nick stood before the cameras, their images being broadcast to Earth and celestial worlds alike, they embodied the future they were proposing. Through their bond, they coordinated their presentation perfectly, each completing the other's thoughts, demonstrating the harmony possible between their species. "We stand at a crossroads," Harrison began, feeling Nix's supportive presence strengthen his words. "What started as a desperate plea for help has become an opportunity for both our peoples to grow, to understand, to evolve. The bond between Commander Harrison and myself proves that our differences need not divide us," Nix continued. "Instead, they can bridge the gap between our worlds, creating something greater than either of us could achieve alone." As they spoke, Harrison felt something shift in the station's atmosphere. The human scientists and celestial observers had stopped their work, drawn by the power of the moment. In their faces, he saw the same hope he and Nix shared through their bond, the hope of a future where the stars themselves were not barriers, but gateways to understanding. Their joint address concluded with a proposal: the establishment of a dedicated facility for human-celestial cooperation, where volunteers from both species could explore the possibilities of bonding under careful supervision. It was a bold step, but as Harrison felt Nix's unwavering support through their connection, he knew it was the right one. 1 year after the first human-celestial bond, the newly constructed Unity Station orbited Earth like a shining beacon. Its crystalline spires and sweeping architecture blended human ingenuity with celestial aesthetics, creating something entirely new, much like the partnership it represented. Commander Harrison stood in the station's central chamber, watching groups of human and celestial scientists working side by side. Through his bond with Nix, he felt her approach long before she entered the room. Their connection had deepened over the past year, becoming as natural as breathing. "The latest results are promising," Nix said, joining him at the observation window. 3 new pairs have successfully completed the bonding process this month." Harrison nodded, feeling the gentle resonance of these new bonds in the station's energy field. What had once seemed alien and frightening to him now felt like part of the natural order. And the medical applications. Beyond our highest hopes, Nix's excitement flowed through their bond. The hybrid healing techniques have already saved thousands of lives on Earth. Cancer treatments, organ regeneration, your people are adapting our knowledge in ways we never imagined. Their shared consciousness filled with images. Hospitals where bonded human-celestial pairs work together to heal the sick, research facilities where the combined knowledge of both species led to breakthrough after breakthrough. And educational centers where young humans learn to access their latent abilities for connection and energy manipulation. Dr. Reed, now the chief scientist of Unity Station, approached them with his characteristic energy. "Commander, Ambassador, you need to see this." He projected a holographic display showing a complex network of light patterns. "We've discovered something remarkable about the bonding process. It's not just creating connections between individuals, it's actually strengthening the fabric of space-time itself." Through their bond, Harrison and Nix shared a moment of profound understanding. What had begun as a desperate plea for survival had evolved into something far greater, a fundamental shift in the evolution of both species. "The Council is meeting today to discuss expansion," Harrison said, though Nix already knew this through their connection. "They're talking about establishing similar facilities on other planets." "The stars themselves seem closer now," Nix mused, her violet eyes reflecting the Earth below. "Not just because of our advanced travel capabilities, but because we're learning to reach across the void in new ways." Their conversation was interrupted by a soft chime, the arrival of a special delegation. The chamber's doors opened to reveal a group of children, both human and celestial, part of the first integrated education program. They moved through the station with wonder, their natural acceptance of each other a testament to the future being built. Harrison felt Nix's deep satisfaction through their bond. A year ago, she had come to Earth believing she would die. Instead, she had helped birth a new era of human-celestial cooperation. The children's laughter echoed through the chamber, a sound that would have been impossible before their desperate gamble. "Tell us about the first bond," one of the human children asked, eyes wide with curiosity. "Were you scared?" Harrison and Nix exchanged glances, their shared memories flowing between them. "We were," Harrison admitted, "but sometimes the greatest discoveries require us to face our fears." "The bond taught us that difference doesn't mean division," Nix added, her silvery skin glowing softly. "That what makes us unique can also make us stronger together." As they spoke to the children, Harrison reflected on how far they'd come. The bond had changed him, yes, but not in the ways early critics had feared. He was still human, still himself, but with a deeper understanding of both his own species' potential and the vast possibilities the universe held. The station's huge windows framed the Earth and stars beyond, a view that never failed to inspire awe. But now, thanks to the bridges built between their species, it wasn't just a view, it was a promise. A promise of what could be achieved when fear gave way to understanding, when desperate chances led to magnificent discoveries. Through their bond, Harrison and Nix shared a moment of perfect clarity. This was their true legacy, not just the scientific breakthroughs or diplomatic achievements, but the proof that in the vast darkness of space, connection was possible. That even across the gulf of stars, hearts could find each other, minds could meet, and different worlds could become one. As the children continued their tour, their questions and enthusiasm a bright current of energy through the station, Harrison and Nix turned their gaze to the stars. In the distance, more celestial ships approached, bringing new volunteers, new opportunities, new possibilities. The future they had helped create stretched out before them, as boundless as space itself, filled with the light of understanding they had kindled together.